Hey everybody, welcome back to the JK Man podcast. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about hunting. It's something I grew up doing. Sadly, I haven't gotten to do it as much as I used to due to not really having a place to go. I used to go all the time on some extended family's land with my brother and my dad. Just like the fishing episode, my dad is the one who taught me most, if not all of what I know about hunting, minus a couple of things that I've picked up over the years, whether it be YouTube videos or just other people giving me some tidbit advice, like how to, gut a deer if you get one, and how to fill out the tag back when we used to have to do that, unlike now where it's all done like on your phone or whatever. Back when you still had to bring the deer into the gas station to register it instead of just calling it in. And granted, it's a little bit easier now. It's just sometimes you miss the nostalgia of wearing the tag on the back and then having to punch out the shit so you can mark it on the deer so that way they know when and roughly what time and where, and then also so that way you can possibly get, oh, that's a nice one, or oh, it's a little small for my taste, or something like that when you bring it in, and then getting to see everybody else's deer provided they got one. And of course, like most, they always end up having either more or bigger ones than you might have gotten if you even get a chance to shoot one that year. But when you start as a kid, as usual, you get the same kind of shit that your parents complain about. Kids tend to get bored quick or complain. So, first time sitting out there, I'm using my mom's rifle because she decided she didn't want to hunt anymore and gifted me her gun for a Christmas present, so I had my own rifle. It's a beautiful Woodstock 30-30 Winchester lever action, and I was so excited because I got to see my parents go over the years, and then like my brother tagging along when he got the chance, and getting to see some of the massive fucking deers that were brought home, like the one that my dad was really proud of. It's still in my parents' house today from 2005. His biggest rack, but not his biggest deer ever, but he was still a monster. It was a really girthy 10-point buck, almost 11, but one of the tines was just a little bit too short. It's the first deer and only one he ever got to mount. At least he ended up shooting a buck that he could actually do that with. I still have yet to get one that I'm actually proud enough to get mounted, let alone one with a rack, because there's been one instance where I did ended up shooting a deer, but he ended up being a nub when I thought it was a doe. Or same thing happened with my dad. But as time goes by, as long as I get one that's kind of like worth it in the end, because I'm not one of those ones that just goes for sport. Oh, I don't care about the meat. I just care about the rack, what it looks good on my wall. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to show off an achievement, but I'm more in it for a little bit of the fun, but also for food. Like, it's not everybody's taste, just like if you were to go for bear, elk, moose, whatever. But I do, like a lot of my family, like the taste of venison, especially if you make it with like stew or spaghetti. Spaghetti's probably the best when you cut it up into like little bites. And I've been fortunate enough out of all the years I've gone to at least get 2 deer, which less than I would like, but at least it's something proving that, hey, you had a chance and you also were good enough to knock it down. But then there's also some non-hunting experiences where I still managed to get the same thing. Like there was one time I ended up going to work years ago with a buddy of mine, and I ended up hitting a deer on the way to work. I didn't end up keeping that one because I didn't really give a shit at the time, but also it was kind of small. but there was a time within the last couple of years where I ended up hitting one. Thankfully, no damage to the vehicle, but he was a decent sized deer, so I got some meat in my freezer. A little unconventional, but hey, if it works, it works. But yeah, I started out with rifle hunting because, yeah, I liked the idea of shooting a bow, but I was always a terrible shot with it due to not having one, but also lack of practice aside from like gym class archery or something. But at some point, I was watching my dad shoot, and he was a really good shot considering the fact that his good eye was the bad eye. So he taught himself how to shoot right-handed still, but with his left eye. And moving targets are always a pain in the ass, at least for me anyway. But I couldn't tell you how many deer my dad's knocked down over the years, even with only having one good eye. He also had a better advantage than I did too. I started out sitting in the brush because we were hunting on my cousin's dad's land, well, his family's land, and you have to ask permission to hunt there, let alone set up some kind of a stand. And being their property, they have rules which you got to follow. Makes sense. Like, for instance, you can't put up a stand or something like that without them saying it's okay. And if they say okay, their one stipulation is you either have to be able to take it down or you have to allow whoever else is allowed to hunt on that property to use it as well, which I get it, but it also kind of irritated us because the stand my dad had probably sat, I don't know, 10 to 12 feet off the ground or so, and it was handmade by my older brother. And then my dad tweaked it a little bit over the years, and then we also helped spruce it up by making a brand new ladder because we left his out there. It was wood, so it ended up eventually rotting out, and the tree it was on started dying, so we had to kind of stabilize that so he could still go up there. But at least he has a view of the entire field. Me sitting in the brush, I basically got left, right, and then in front of me. Never saw a fucking thing, getting bored because I'm not getting any action because like most kids you're expecting to see shit constantly, especially after all the deer that came from that field over the years. But as time goes by between farming and also like people kind of overusing that land, the deer population tends to go down a little bit. And then when they try to make the stipulations like, oh, we're limiting how many doe tags because if you shoot all the does, we ain't going to have any more babies. And if we don't have babies, we ain't going to have any more bucks or anything else. I mean, I get it, but regardless of their little, little surveys of how many deer are roughly in the population and blah, 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 you see a lot more does than you do bucks, and yet they're limiting how many you shoot. I guarantee, I'm not saying like just free reign, let everybody shoot as many as they want because then yeah, you would be killing off the population, but I think they should allow you more than just, what is it, like one or possibly two tags now. I think it's one unless you are able to purchase an additional because sometimes they allow it, sometimes they don't, depending on the year. And say you have one tag for each and you're not able to fill the buck tag because, you don't see very many around. They're more strategic. They send out the does and the babies first, and then once they think it's clear, then they'll go. But you're sitting there and at a young age and you're like, oh, I hope I get one. I'm so ready. I'm excited. Let's fucking go. And then you sit there, you're getting hungry. You're getting tired because you got up early. Like most kids, they usually don't wake up until like after 8 o'clock or later. Well, most hunting times start at like, I don't know, 6 in the morning or so, depending on the year and time zones and whatever. Well, me being that young and I wasn't a morning person, I still kind of am not, but my body's kind of been attuned to it now. So you get out there at the ass crack of dawn and you're sitting there and you're trying to stay awake, and then eventually you get to see the sun come over, you hear the birds wake up, the more or less the forest, if you're hunting by woods or whatever, come alive, which is kind of cool. But in the midst of that, when the sunlight's adjusting over time, you feel a little bit like you got buck fever, so you're hallucinating. You're seeing shit that isn't there. There'd be countless times sitting in the brush where I look over by the fence line where they sometimes cross, and I swear to God I see a deer. Multiple throughout the fence line, or even by a couple of the trees or some shit, or way off in the distance in the field itself. So you get anxious and you pull up your scope and you look through it just to find out it's either a really tall weed, a small tree, or like a partial corn stalk that between the shadows and then you hoping it's a deer, you get yourself all excited just for a letdown because there wasn't anything there in the first place. Then you get a little excited when you hear twig snapping behind you. But of course, when you want to go out for a specific kind of animal, the other ones annoy the shit out of you. There's been countless times where I was sitting out, whether it be in the brush or later in the years when we were hunting on that property, we got it okayed where I brought out one of those big old wooden, I think it's wire spools, and then just sat on top of that. So at least I had a little bit of height to see more. And there'd be like little weasels going by, hopping around, birds landing either like near you or some shit, hopping around, picking up twigs and stuff for their nests. Or you get like those voles constantly fucking around in like the corn husks or whatever they planted that year. Or the biggest annoying little chatterbox of them all, fucking squirrels. You're sitting there trying to enjoy the peace and quiet, and for the most part it's working, but then you get the little fuckers chattering like a son of a bitch in the corners, and you're like, at this point, I don't care if I see a deer. If I see one of you guys, I'm gonna take the shot, but you never do. Well, then eventually you get to the point where whoever you're with, like for me it was mainly Dad's decision on when we go back, whether it to be just to, like, you know, warm up, because usually it's fucking cold by then, or eating and then maybe taking a nap and relaxing, going back out in the afternoon. Our favorite thing to do was always stopping at this one restaurant so we could eat some breakfast and then go home, maybe relax a little bit and take a nap. And then after that, we go back out there, but our first thing we always did, regardless if it was morning or afternoon, maybe bring a snack or two with you, but stop at the gas station for some drinks. And then we get out there and sit out until it gets dark enough or close to the time you're supposed to leave the woods. And for the first, I don't even know how many years, I didn't see jack shit. We were always pissed off because we spent good money on the licenses and we don't see anything. Then the one year I was like, okay, maybe this one will be different. We actually ended up seeing a few deer that year. My dad saw them first because of the height advantage, and I'm sitting there and I don't see anything and all of a sudden I hear his gun go off, and he shot a .300 Magnum, so that fucker was loud for me. And even though I'm well over probably 200 feet away from him, if not more, it echoes throughout that field like the best acoustics you could ask for. So it kind of scared the shit out of me. I look, and all of a sudden I see two of them running across the field. He's shooting. He misses the first one because it got out of his fucking sight too quickly. And the second one, he grazed it I think in the stomach, because we tried to track it down. We never ended up finding it, even though we've tried following the trail throughout the woods. It ended up either dying somewhere where we couldn't find it, or maybe somebody else found it and took it. I'm not quite sure. And then the third deer, he actually got that one. It wasn't very big, but it was still something. He was proud that he finally got something after years of not getting anything, but at least he got something that year. He was so excited because it was a doe tag that he had to fill out because it was a decent sized doe. He goes, great, that means I can still come out for a buck. Then we get down there to go deal with the deer, and turns out it's a nub. And the only way he noticed, because he wasn't paying attention to the head right away, is as soon as he went to go start field dressing the deer, he saw the twig and berries. Well, fast forward, I think it was the same year, within the next couple of days, a couple more deer managed to come out. He tried shooting at them. They started running because they were a little bit farther out of his reach than he thought as far as what we had the guns sighted in for. And he took the shot. They started running. And I saw a nice, and I mean nice buck. And he wasn't looking at that one because he was aiming at the other two running towards him. Well, our guns typically are sighted in for 100 yards. My dumbass, I got tired of not getting a chance to shoot where I was sitting. So I said, I'll take a shot. I watched the deer go by, made sure it wasn't where my dad was positioned so the bullet wouldn't travel towards him. But it was well over 100 yards. So I took a shot, and I was way off. I fucking missed. So I go, okay, maybe I need to aim up higher and ahead of him. I shot again. Just missed the back of his fucking hooves. I go, oh, now we're getting somewhere. So I put another one in the chamber, and he's getting a little bit closer this time. But now he's moving at full speed. I take a shot, and I just missed behind him again. Then he disappeared into the woods. I was so fucking mad because I missed, but I was so happy that I finally got to shoot at something. But then there was a couple of times where you're sitting there, you hear the twig snapping, you can kind of see the brown coming from the corner of your eyes. And then you're waiting, but then they notice you without you realizing it. And the only way you know, besides the fact that they stop moving, you hear the fuckers starting to stomp and snort at you. And you're like, oh, great. There's no fucking chance in hell that this is coming out now. So once in a while, to try to give me a little bit of a better idea of like where to look for and shit, my dad would take me out there when it wasn't hunting season or whatever, slightly to check up on our stands, but also to map out like, okay, this is where the deer have been coming out lately due to like the worn out trails and tracks and other things. So this is where we're gonna put out some like corn or apples and shit, so that way they get used to coming out there. So by hunting season, they kind of, oh, maybe there's something out here. So you got a chance to hit one of them. Well, the first year I finally got one, I decided I wanted something with a little bit more power and a longer range. So I saved up my money, and I ended up getting a bolt action 30-06 synthetic, made by Savage, I believe. And I was so happy. My first ever gun, regardless of at the time my dad having to register it for me because I wasn't 18 yet. And I'm sitting on top of my spool there in between a couple of days where I had to kind of just sit there and pout because a couple of people started ruining it for me, whether it be my cousin's uncle through marriage who owns the property surrounding being a fucking asshole, constantly using farm equipment or running around with his truck or some shit or four-wheeler for absolutely no reason, just to purposely screw with us. It wasn't because of farming. It wasn't because he was checking on his fields. He purposely did that to screw with our hunting. Or like one time, one of the other relatives on his side of the family decided they were going to start doing some like brush clearing or like some actual farming while we were out there, knowing damn well we were out there and it was rifle season, just so it would ruin our chances of seeing anything and maybe discourage us from coming back out there. Because for some reason later, they acted like they had a fucking problem with us being out there, even though my dad was hunting out there for like over 20 years. Had to, at some point, consistently ask permission, even though we were told early on that if his dad said it was okay for him to hunt or us to hunt out there, then it was fine. Well, they had extended relatives from different states finish their hunting season. Well, I'm part of the family, so I have the right to go hunt on their property. So you got all these idiots from different states coming onto their extended family's property, and most people, because it's common sense, come out there early in the morning so that way the deer don't notice you, because you've been out there long enough, and so on. They'll come halfway through the fucking morning shift in broad daylight, which also fucking ruined it because now they're seeing an unknown person or whatever coming through the field, walking through the trees, and then we're like, well, pack up, time to fucking go. They just scared away any possible deer that were coming around. But anyway, I was sitting on my spool, and a deer was in the neighboring field where the asshole lives, and I saw 3 of them coming from a plot of trees in the middle of one of his plots of land. So I just started watching him through the scope. I wasn't about to shoot him because he's one of those dicks that he doesn't want you shooting things on his land, which is, I get it. But he even holds that when it comes to, like, say you shot one and it jumped the fence before it died and it landed on his property. Now you got a whole new problem because it's on his property. The deer ended up getting so close to me, they were probably within 50 feet. And I watched them go all the way down to the fence line. And I'm watching them. I go, oh, they're getting close to where they normally cross over. Hopefully they'll hop over. So I'm sitting there trying to be patient, not to scare them off. And then I hear the first one jump over the fence. I'm like, oh yeah, game time. I look, it's not the one I wanted. Because you had one that was kind of small, was probably a younger one. Then there was another one that was still young, but it wasn't that young, so it was still on the scrawny side. And the other one, it was not big, but it was acceptable. I go, I want that one. Hopefully that one jumps over. Well, a couple seconds later, that one jumps over. So now they're directly this way from me. And I'm sitting there, my adrenaline's going through the roof. My dad's sitting in his spot, and all of a sudden, I hop off of my spool. They stare at me, but so I freeze. And then they go back to eating. I go, okay. So then I slowly started doing like tactical squat walk underneath the pine tree that's within like 20 to 30 feet from me, or from them. And again, I had to take my time, but they were watching me, but then acted like they didn't give a shit. I'm like, alright. So I dropped to one knee for stability reasons. And I shot at the one I wanted. The third one stayed off in the other field. I shot it. It fell over. And I was so happy. Finally got a fucking deer. And with my new gun that year. The other one stared at me. Went back to eating. I got within 10 feet of the fucking thing. And I looked at it, and he's just staring at me. I go, boo! And then he finally fucking takes off. So then I'm trying to get a hold of my dad because I'm excited. I got my first deer. And he's pissed because he goes, you are stupid. Why? Because you should have stayed there and waited a little bit longer. We could have taken care of the deer later. We still could have sat out here a little bit longer, see if anything else came out. I go, then why did you get out of your stand? Because you tried calling me, texting me, and you were moving around and making noise. There's no fucking point. So let's just take care of your deer and go home. And that's when he showed me how to gut a deer. I was so proud of myself. And then he goes, come to think of it, we still got some time. I think things will settle down. So just for now, just go back to your seat and we'll sit a little bit longer before we head back. So I was cold before, regardless of wearing the full one-piecer with the orange and shit. But after that, because of adrenaline and everything else, I'm fucking hot. So I got tied off around my waist, blood all up on my arms. I'm like, yeah. I got, even though it wasn't a buck fever going on. That was awesome. So happy. Finally get back to town, get myself washed up, then we go eat breakfast, and then getting congratulations from the family for finally getting one. My dad was proud of me. Then as years went on, when it started getting a little bit harder to hunt there because of those extended relatives causing problems, like they even tried putting up one of those fucking roadblocks so we couldn't park where we normally park to go hunting. It's like, dude, you don't even fucking live here, and this land doesn't belong to you specifically. So where do you get off trying to stop us from going onto that land when we were already told that we can? During that time, my brother was also hunting with us, and to try to give me a chance of shooting something that year, because we hadn't seen anything yet, they stuck me up in my dad's stand, and I finally understand, for somebody who's always fucking warm. I mean, his hands were like, he just got done covering them with a hot pad for like good 30 minutes. Why he complained about getting cold up there. Because as you know, elevation, wind, you get colder the higher you get up. Well, I'd be sitting in my spot, my drink is cold, but it's fine. He come down, his fucking soda turned into a slushy. So my brother and dad started on one end, and they did like a mini drive through the land, or the trees, so I could sit there and hopefully get something. Sadly, nothing came out, and I think either my dad or my brother ended up fucking tripping over a branch, which pissed him off. That's why none of us liked driving. And another time I had a driving experience was with my cousin's dad. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it still sucks that we didn't get a chance to shoot anything, because we went to at least 3 or 4 different sections of land that his family owns. And with the party that we had, which was a mixture of relatives, cops, friends, you name it, there was a lot of us. You thought something would have kicked up. The only thing we saw besides squirrels and birds was maybe a fucking coyote. And I just personally don't like drives, because not only is it not always the safest, because I did have a teacher tell me how he doesn't do drives anymore due to the fact that one of his, I don't remember if it was a family member or a really good friend. Typically when you do drives, you have them walking through the forest, then you'll have a line of guys on the other end to shoot anything that comes out. But instead of having it where the guys are at the edge of the woods facing the same direction the guys are walking, they had it where they were facing the other way. And they had some deer come out. They started shooting. Well, one of the bullets made it through the woods and ended up killing his friend. So always be careful, and if you can, try to watch out for the orange, provided they remember to fucking wear it, because they figure, oh, I'm hunting, I shouldn't have to. But it's regulation for a reason. Not necessarily during bow season, because then they don't typically care, but during rifle season. Granted, when you got snow on the ground, it's a little easier to see, but with camo, because of what it's supposed to be for, you blend in pretty well. The orange is so you don't shoot somebody and you know they're there so you can avoid them. Well, the main reason I don't like drives, aside from the fact that it takes fucking forever walking through that shit, so you're getting all hot and sweaty, or hoping to God something runs through so you can shoot it, is when I was hunting with the one group, they're the type of people, it doesn't matter the age or the size of the deer. If it's brown, it's down. That's some people's philosophy. I get it. They just want venison in the freezer. But it's also stupid, because if you're shooting anything that comes out that's brown, regardless of the age, if you shoot all the fucking babies, there's going to be nothing to shoot in the future. Save the babies, aim for the adults, like everyone else. But that's just my preference. I was told that the younger ones sometimes taste better because they're more tender. I personally don't care. I would rather go after the adult, give them a chance to grow up, so that way not only can they possibly make more deer, but you don't know how big they could possibly get. Like the people that track the deer over the years by following their sheds. And like, oh, I don't think he's going to get any bigger because his shed's been the same the last couple years. So I guess it must be him being done growing, so maybe this will be my year to shoot him. Because that group, not only did they want you to shoot anything that came out that resembles a deer, I mean, I get it. Everybody's there to get venison. But what was the most bullshit is typically when people have some common courtesy, say there's 10 of you shooting and 10 of you walking. All 10 of you start shooting. Say you ended up shooting all 20 deer. Between you and the other people. And you shot a really fucking nice one. Most people, we all got a deer, that's all that matters. But yeah, you can have that one since you shot it. That's your achievement. No. These fuckers. Oh no, we can't do that. Everybody needs to have their tags filled, but you can't have the pick of the litter because it's not fair. How is it not fair? Everybody's still getting a deer. Let them get their fucking achievement. So that discouraged me even more from doing it, besides not wanting to have to lug that suit and shit through a forest. It's like, I know it's nowhere near it, but it makes me feel for the military, currently active and veterans and everything else. Because their equipment's a lot fucking heavier and they have to do a lot worse between the heat and the distances, you name it. But that kind of gets you a feel for it, because those suits aren't exactly light. Not to mention if you carry a bunch of rounds with you in case you need to reload, a seat cushion, drinks, your gun or bow or whatever you use. It's just a lot to handle. And I know typically when you go do a drive, you don't bring everything with you. But still, the boots are fucking massive, especially since they're supposed to help with insulation to keep your feet warm. Plus everything you do bring with you, it adds up, especially when you're moving. And where we hunted most of the time, that made that drive a little bit more strenuous, because it was not only woods, but it was also partially swamp. And all I gotta say is, if you like doing drives, that you do you. Me personally, I rather just sit in a stand or sit in a field or something like that. But then as years went by, I started thinking about it again, and I was like, maybe I can try bow season 2. So I finally found somebody selling a compound bow. It was a Matthews Mission. It's a really nice one too. An old family friend of ours. Came with some carbon fiber arrows. I ended up having to buy some broadheads and stuff because I didn't know what I liked at the time. Got it all set up and everything. The only thing I never did was sight the fucker in. So it just sat in my closet. I never got around to doing it. And then at that point, wasn't allowed to hunt on that property anymore because we just had enough with their bullshit. So eventually I was like, probably never going to use it. Not to mention I'm horrible with a regular bow. So I ended up selling it. And then shortly after that, they passed it where instead of it just being for like disabled and shit like that, anybody can own, let alone use a crossbow for hunting. So I'm like, oh, I really want one of those, especially like some of us out there, kind of like with Supernatural wanting the car or something like that. Watching Walking Dead, you get to see the badass Daryl Dixon. I wanted his fucking crossbow. So I'm trying to find ways of saving money or like planning to get one. And eventually I finally fucking get one. But I still have nowhere to go. And I don't like using public land for the fact that not only can you not control it because it's for everybody as far as who's sitting in your spot or where it is or how many people are there with you. It's also like a lot of the places that we've gotten to go over the years, because of them being public, it's either too much land to go through to figure out where you want to go, so you feel like you're walking a quarter mile into the woods just to figure out where you want to sit and possibly see something. Or you get the other ones where it's just solid fucking trees and brush. Like there was one time, I think it was the last year I got to go hunting with my dad before he passed. Before I get to that little story, there's a side story in that. As most people do, you go take your gun to the rifle range and sight it in just to make sure you're still on as far as your sights go. And besides the fact that he was getting older and with his eye situation, he was also slightly contemplating finally getting a left-handed rifle and just fully committing to the left-handed shooting, so that way it's not as much stress with him trying to use his left eye with his right hand. But he's just so used to it, and he's right hand dominant. He said, well, we need to go to the rifle range. We even had to, I think, get his gun bore sighted once because the sight was so fucking off for some reason. But we get out there. I'm shooting the 30-30 just for the fun of it, and that scope was way the fuck off. And then I shot mine. It was still pretty close. We only had to tweak it a little bit. He brought out, I think a normal box holds, 20 shells. And his was like only missing 2. He figured, okay, I'm only going to need about 4 to 6 shots and I'll be fine. So he gets out there. He starts shooting. Miss. Shoots again. Miss. I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck's happening? He's normally a really great shot. Hits the target no fucking problem. Even if it's a little off, at least he's on the target. But he wasn't hitting it at all. All we saw was, because we brought binoculars and shit, the dust from behind. Because I was with my ex at the time, because she was helping sight in the rifles. And he's starting to get pissed, which I don't blame him. And then I also felt really bad for him because I could see in his face, not only was he frustrated, he is severely depressed because it's the one thing he loved to do aside from collect things, ride bike, and go fishing. And as we all do, bitch. We all love the bitch. But anyway, and he's getting to the point where it almost looked like he was getting to the point of getting tears going down his face. And I went over to try to calm him down and also like console him a little bit. But then he said, okay, well, he already went through a box of bullets at that point because he went through the 18 plus a couple. And then he shoots one. He finally hits the target. A little spark of hope comes into his eyes. He tweaks it a little bit after we see where it landed. Shoots the next shot. So we end up going through... I don't know why his gun was so fucking far off or whatever was happening, but we ended up finally getting it sighted in after like a box and a half. And then he was more relaxed because he thought something was wrong with him. Like maybe his eyesight's just that bad now. But luckily we got it. And then we ended up going to the public land the one time. We went to one. It was extended family. He had his private property with his family, but there was also public land right next to it. So we go on the public land, park in their driveway because they said we could. And not only is there a bunch of like partially frozen little like puddles. So we're constantly worrying about stepping in fucking water that went up to our knee. Majority of that forest was the shit that looks like really thick, spiky bushes or trees. So there was like nowhere to fucking sit. We gave up on that one. And then the other one, it was just so fucking vast and wide open. There was almost no place that you could sit that would give you a good chance of being out of sight, but still low enough to the ground or whatever so you can hop off, because we had to sit on stumps. But then there's also some funny instances too, where me and my dad and my brother were going to the rifle range. Go sight in our guns before we start hunting that season. And my brother was having a hard time sighting in his gun. Turns out, after the fact, his scope was shot. But we set him up. We're all at the 100-yard, and he's shooting. We're getting our guns pretty narrowed in. And then he's having the hardest fucking time. So, like, well, maybe we should move you over to the 50 yards just to see what the fuck is going on. So we move him over there. We finish sighting in our guns, come over by him, and he's still either severely off or missing the fucking target. And he's not that bad of a shot. All of a sudden, we're sitting there and you hear him go, "Ah, fuck! What happened?" He got too close, and the scope right in the forehead made him bleed a little bit. So we started, picking on him a little bit. The next season, we're sighting in our rifles again. He's got a newer scope, so his gun is fine. And my dad ended up doing it and bending his fucking glasses. So he's pissed off, but we're starting to crack jokes at him. So I get up there to shoot. I didn't draw blood, but I did it too. So I guess we're all a little dumb, getting too close to the scope. But then the first year I finally got to use my crossbow. That was probably my most memorable shot aside from hunting with my dad and brother. Because I was on land that was owned by my ex's family, and they said, yeah, you can hunt out here, rifle or bow, just be careful because it's near the house, and if it's too far, don't take the shot, safety precautions. So we end up setting up some trail cams and stuff like that so we can gauge where the deer's sitting. Well, my ex was sitting farther down on the hill with her rifle, and then I was using my crossbow because I only paid for the crossbow due to the fact that it's not that big, so shooting a rifle, unless it's a small caliber, not really the best choice. But you can also use a crossbow during rifle season as long as you're wearing orange. So I get up to the top of the hill while she's sitting on a downed tree, and I get my shit situated on the ground. I finally start to sit down with my bow. Just got comfy, and I feel my fucking phone go because I put it on vibrate, so don't scare the deer. I go, who the fuck is messaging me right now? So I ignore it, and all of a sudden I hear a twig snap from that direction. I go, oh shit. I look out of the corner of my eye, making as few movements as possible. I see a deer, and not a huge one, but a nice size one. I go, oh shit. And I watched him between grazing, eating, and then occasionally staring at me. Started from over there, walked behind me. At one point, he was within 5 feet of me behind me because I could hear him, and even it didn't snort, but sneezed a couple of times. Well, then it made its way over here, and it's walking, and every so often it'd pop its head up, stare right at me, take a couple steps forward, and then go back about its business. Well, as you know, deer are skittish. If you move fast, they're going to run. So I go, I know I can shoot him right now, but if I turn my whole body, that little bitch is going to run. So slowly, when it wasn't paying attention, I'm watching him out of the corner of my eye. I take my bow with one hand, and it's not a light one either. I get it, line it up, out of the fucking peripheral vision. It was behind a tree, little smaller than the thickness of this fucking bottle. And then he finally got out just enough where I could see the broadside of him. I slowly raise it. It stares at me, kind of like jolts a little bit, stares at me while chewing, then puts its head down. So I go like this, get as clear of a shot as I possibly can because of the fact that my scope's out here instead of right where it needs to be. And as soon as I shot that arrow, the deer heard it. It hit the fucking deer. It took one step the other direction and fell over. And then I could hear, like liquid coming out because, it shot through. And I was so fucking happy because it was my first crossbow kill with my crossbow. First time bow hunting, technically. And not only did I get a deer, I did it one-handed out of the side of my fucking vision. I was so excited. It was already kind of getting late in the day too. So I go to the top of the hill where I can see her, and I'm waving her up like, come on, come on. And then she sees the deer and she goes, I sent you a message. I pull up my phone finally. That buzz I had when I first sat down was her telling me that there was a deer coming up the fucking hill, but she couldn't get a beat on it. So get over to the deer, and I'm not seeing my arrow, but I do see blood. I'm looking, I go, where the fuck did my arrow go? She goes, well, maybe it was a clean enough shot to where it probably like launched through the deer and somewhere in the woods. You might find it, you might not. I would have brought it onto the video with me, but right now it's somewhere in the living room. I just forgot to grab it because I put it in a shadow box. And the arrow was actually underneath the deer because when it flopped over, it landed on it after it already made it all the way through. With a broadhead recommendation from an old coworker of mine from a previous job. And boy, did they fucking work. I look at where I hit him, and I shot him exactly where I was aiming with the limited visibility. And also, when it came to field dressing the deer, I found out it was a nub because he had the balls again. And when I'm pulling stuff out, get to the point where I get to see exactly what damage my broadhead made. I sort of damaged a good chunk of the heart, but that thing did exactly what the description said. It obliterated those fucking lungs. No wonder it fell over right away. The only part that sucked ass was trying to haul that deer back down the hill because it was pretty steep. Going downhill wasn't the bad part. It was after you got downhill, it was like kind of a up and down bumpy bullshit, lugging a deer even after being emptied, probably weighing over 100 pounds, or well, probably closer to like 150, with a nylon, or no, not even nylon, it was paracord, and then hoisting it up on the tree so it can drain. But yeah, that was my second proudest moment ever, and sadly I haven't gotten to go hunting since then due to not having a place to go. But it's just something that not only brings me a little bit of peace and quiet and some joy, especially if you get something, but also just brings back some of those core memories of my dad and my mom or whoever else went hunting with us, or when I was younger getting to hear the stories. Like my dad told me stories of when he used to hunt when before I was born, and sometimes when I was little. He used to be getting deer left and right. He's countless deer, and when he still had to bring them into the gas station to register them, he'd get compliments all the time like, "Jesus Christ, are you sure you didn't shoot a fucking cow?" Because I guess they were massive. And then eventually I also hear funny stories that involve not shooting deer. Like there was one instance where I think it was my mom or maybe a different relative. They were hunting with my dad. Or no, it wasn't my mom. It was an uncle. He was hunting with my dad and my brother. They were out in the field and there was a nice sized fucking buck coming through. It was where he was sitting, more or less. And they're sitting there like, okay, yeah, he's going to get his deer. He's going to get his deer. The deer came and went, no sound. And eventually they come up to him and they're like, what the fuck happened? I don't know. I unloaded the fucking mag. I shot all my shots and he just kept running. They go, are you sure about that? Yeah, I swear to God. We didn't hear any shots go off. Wait, what? He was so starstruck and like buck fever crazy. He, in his mind, thought he was shooting. He literally just unloaded his whole fucking gun. He didn't shoot a single shot. They picked up a bullet. He goes, you said you shot all of your bullets, right? Yeah? Well, look at this. None of these have been fired, and these are all the ones that are sitting right where you unloaded. Oh, God damn it. He was so pissed. Then there was another instance. I guess it was just my brother and my dad. And like I said, you're out there for hours on end. Sometimes people go out there all fucking day. And you tend to get tired, especially with the fresh air and everything going on. My dad's sitting in the stand. My brother's at the far end of the field, kind of downhill in the corner, so he can view that section of the property. My dad's hunting, and all of a sudden, he hears, and he's like, what the fuck is that? Is that a cow? It don't sound like a cow. But he hears it again. So he tries to peek down the hill towards my brother to maybe see what the fuck's going on over there. Can't quite see because he's just down far enough to where you can't see him from the edge of his fucking tree stand. So he hops down and he gets a little farther up the hill and he looks through his scope again. Here's my brother. So he says, well, fuck this. He puts his shit in the truck after unloading. He comes over there, and I don't remember if he woke him up or if he was already awake. He goes, come on, let's go. He goes, why? Because you were sleeping, and your snoring probably scared any chance of anything popping out. So let's fucking go. You want to sleep? We'll do it at home. So they were both kind of pissy about that, but at least he got some sleep in. I took a couple of naps out there too. Made sure the gun was far enough away from me so it wouldn't, hurt me. But took a couple of naps out there when I knew nothing was going to come out, because there's just some days you can kind of tell. But what always pissed us off was that asshole that owned a lot of the property surrounding where we used to hunt. He also had some form of, he denied it, but some form of like liquid salt or something, because I think one of his kids admitted it later in the years, spread across his grass to lure in as many deer as possible so we wouldn't get a chance to shoot them, because we would get discouraged, time to go home, and we always took the long way to go look at the other field, see if there's any deer out there. And not now, but at that time, any given day around the same time, you had anywhere from 10 to 50 fucking deer in his property, all licking the ground. But he didn't spread anything. Fucking liar. This is the same guy that he believes in only shooting bucks. So he kicked off the property, his own son and maybe a couple others, because they shot a doe one year, even though that's what they had a tag for. Eventually he welcomed them back after many years of avoiding going there for hunting season, even though that dumbass never hunted in the first place. His excuse was he didn't want people shooting because he was worried the bullets were going to hit his house. Well, if you knew anything about bullets, they tend to lose fucking speed and also drop as they go down. His house was so far away, not to mention the island of trees, more or less like a mini forest in between then. There is no chance that the bullets would have even made it. Oh, they're whizzing past my house. They're whizzing past my head. The fuck they were. This isn't a war zone. Even if there was a chance, the guy would have had to aim in the fucking air like a mortar, or at least a little bit lower. He's just being a dick to being a dick. Just like he also had his son, or there was one time him, was ripping around on a truck or a four-wheeler just because, but they also had a cousin on their family. He was one of those guys where even though he's related, he thinks he has the right to hunt on anyone's property that's related to them, whether he asks permission or not. Which, it's common courtesy. You ask permission so they don't get pissed at you. Well, he had a blind on one of his properties, and I guess he moved it at the time, and it was next to where I was sitting. And he comes up to me on the four-wheeler, and he's yelling, ruining the fucking hunting season, or the day anyway. And he's shouting over the top of his fucking engine instead of, shutting it off, and yelling at me, thinking I was the one to do it, even though I have never even talked to this guy before, let alone wanted to be on his property. And then he's questioning me on where the cousin was, because after talking with me, they realized it was actually him, and they wanted to not only yell at him but also get his dad involved, to kind of like set him straight, like, hey, unless you ask, you don't fucking come onto our property just because. And then eventually he zipped off, and that was the end of that. Needless to say, I was pissed off because he ruined my fucking hunting day, but what he didn't know was that person he was looking for was still in the tent blind right next to me. He goes, thanks for covering for me, man. That guy's a fucking asshole. And then there was one time I had to kick him out of my seat, because even though he had his blind set up, he was sitting in my seat by the time we got out there. So he was nice enough to hop down and let me hunt in there. And then after that, we didn't really have too many more issues, except for them trying to slowly boot us out. Then my oldest brother had a nice hunting story where he went, I think it was his first year hunting with the crossbow, and he went with our family friend over on his mother's land. He got to sit in a blind with him, and first how many days he didn't fucking see anything, and then there was that one day he finally was nervous because, finally getting to see something and first time using a crossbow for hunting season, and he gets some movement off from the corner, and then eventually they make it into range, and he came home and you could see the fucking joy in his face, and it was awesome because he got a deer that year. He was so fucking happy. And then he also, I still sort of learning myself, but got to learn something that I sort of learned from my ex. That buddy of ours also knows how to process the deer yourself. So he helped him process the deer that they both got and everything, and then he ended up getting to put some venison in the freezer that year. So really happy for him. And after that, like most places, the excitement dies down a little bit when you tend not to see anything. But who knows? Maybe this year we can either find somebody that we know, or maybe find a decent chunk of public land and give it another chance, and maybe me and my brother can go and find somewhere to hunt this year. It'd be nice to get out there again, not to mention if we both end up getting one, another bonus, because we did something together. We're reliving some fun memories that we had with our dad in the process because of doing something he loved to do, but also getting to fill our bellies with the meat. Now, there's one tradition that I've heard about over the years. I'll never fucking do it because it's disgusting. Some people, when they shoot the deer, they'll take a bite of the raw heart. At least my uncle was smart enough to cook the fucking heart before you start eating it. And boy, is that thing tougher than you would think. I get it. Heart's a tough muscle. But after it's been cooked, it's like trying to chew on a piece of dry jerky. Finally get the fucker off. But I'd have to say, between the two things that my uncle made me that I've never had before, that was the better of the two. Because the other one that he made, I didn't mind it at first, but between the flavor and the smell, it just turned fucking putrid. He also made me because he loves it, shit ton of smelt. It's not bad, it's just not my cup of tea, because eventually the aftertaste gets to you, and then the fucking smell, just like some people don't like the smell or the flavor of sardines. Those I actually do enjoy, especially if you get the mustard ones, like they're soaked in mustard, or the ones with the spice on them. But me personally, I rather stick to the normal parts of the deer that you get when you get the deer. Back straps, the legs, all that shit. Not only do you get more, it tastes better, and you can do more with it. I still have yet to complete the processing of the deer that I ended up hitting a couple years ago. Not a couple, it was last year actually. So the deer's still good. It's not like it's freezer burnt. I took out the back straps, I cut off the legs, and whatever other meat that I could salvage aside from what was damaged. But they're still on the bone. I still have to, whether I want to make it into jerky, stew meat, steak, whatever, I still need to do that yet, because I also promised one of my other brothers that I was going to give him a small portion because he asked. I just keep forgetting to, at some point, take it out of the freezer, thaw it out, and then process it all, because as y'all know that do it, it sometimes can take a while, especially if you're limited on the tools you have. I do have a knife. I do have a jerky gun, a dehydrator. I also have an electronic meat grinder. It's just I keep forgetting to do it, considering the fact that most people typically have other shit going on. So hopefully soon I can get that done so that way I can enjoy some venison. But let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah. As most of us that don't already, the only other final goal aside from being able to hunt on a regular basis again so you can relive that fat pastime and enjoy it is possibly if the kids want to get into it, they also have a opportunity to learn from us, and then also getting my own land someday. So not only do I not have to worry about excessive public use or assholes or just private property in general, I'd have my own place to go and I would be able to allow who I want on it, whether it be friends or family, like my brother or my kids, or say some of my nephews and stuff at some point want to learn how to hunt after going through hunter safety, and they would have a place to go. So ultimately that's the goal, but we'll see what happens. But I'd also like to thank everybody for watching the video today and all the viewers that I've been getting so far throughout the last few months. I appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch these videos. I really do appreciate it. It makes me feel like not only am I enjoying what I'm doing, but other people are enjoying this as well. I'd also like to give a shout out to my buddy Michael Slattery over at Unqualified Opinions, Blackout Records, Fistful of Ashes, and then his movie that he's got coming out. I can't remember the name right now because I've had a lot of things going on this week, but if you want to check out all his content, you can go onto his pages. He's got a lot of great stuff out there. I'd also like to thank my family and friends for letting me use some of their stories and experiences for this video. I'd also like to thank my dad and my mom and my brother for teaching me things for hunting, as well as like other people in my life, like my ex showing me how to do the processing. I'd also like to thank them for just, helping me get some of the equipment throughout the years. Like my hunting suit came from my mom. My first rifle came from my mom. My hunting knife came from my dad. And just so many other things. And then just all the different experiences that come with it. It just makes it mean that much more to me, especially when I don't get the chance to go out. But there's always those memories that you hold in your heart. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.